We just ran a webinar that cash collected $32,483 in less than 72 hours, and we have since collected an extra $6,000, and we're on track to do upwards of $50,000 if we keep on the current trend. And now before this, our client was doing roughly 10k a month with his offer, and the previous webinar did only $7,000. And after the webinar, we booked 57 single sales calls, and we've already completed 35 of them, getting over 244 type form applications. The crazy part is we spent $0 on ads, and our client only has 17,000 followers on TikTok and no other audience anywhere else. So in this video, I'm going to give you quite literally everything that you could need as a coach or an operator for an info offer yourself to go ahead and run a webinar to kind of change things up from the normal VSL funnel and cash collect a ridiculous amount of money in a short space of time. But firstly, I want to explain why webinars. Why did we go with the webinar funnel in the first place for this offer, and why should you even consider it? Well, the client was running a normal VSL funnel and he was only making about 5 to 10k a month on average, and his audience was on TikTok, so there's a lot of low trust. Especially if you're doing only short form content, then there's just not enough trust built up in the bar, right? Let's say this is a bar, this is how much trust you need. With short form content, you're only kind of filling up about this much of the space, which means that you need some other mechanism for building that trust. And a webinar gives you 90 minutes to do that, to give away value, to show case studies, to show your own origin story, to relate to them, to do basically everything you need to get this trust bar even further. And you know, it's kind of like viewers they're understanding the normal VSL funnel cycle. They're starting to kind of know what it means, and that's putting people off from booking calls because they know they're going to get hard sold to. They've been around long enough. It's not 2022 or 2023 anymore. So you need a second mechanism on top to kind of convert those more skeptical people. And so what we did was run a webinar, and it allowed us to convert all those low trust leads, clean up the pipeline full of skeptical buyers. You'll have a lot of these in your audience, especially if you've got an organic following. All these people that they're just skeptical, they just don't know whether they should buy or not. Running a webinar, giving them an exclusive limited time bonus, giving them these kind of things, showing case studies, it gives them a reason to show up, and it gives them a reason to book a call because there's something that's urgent or scarce that they don't have that they could get by attending this webinar and then buying on the webinar specifically. And it also disarms prospects because you're giving away free value at the end of the day. In a normal VSL call funnel, you're not giving away the same amount of free value as you would in a 90-minute webinar where you can actually teach them. Like, I aimed to make this webinar that we ran super high value so that even if they didn't buy straight away, they could get the value, they could go away implemented, they could get better. Then when they had the money, they can come back to our client and work with him on the next webinar or on a VSL call funnel. And that's why it's so important to run these every now and again, just to collect these warm prospects and disarm them and make sure they get into the ecosystem. And so now what I'm going to go ahead and do is just break down step by step each stage what we did from A to Z to cash collect $40,000 for an offer that usually does 5-ish, 10k a month. They did 7k on the last webinar. We tripled, quadrupled that in less than 72 hours. And I want to show you a little bit how. So step one for me is market research. And I know you've probably seen this thousands of times, but it is so important to understand every single part of your ICP. So the pain points, problems, dreams, goals, failures, limiting beliefs, scenarios, offer. All of this is super crucial to understand. And to kind of get to this point, you need to gather a list of resources. So if you have sales calls, my God, are they so valuable. Watching through these 5 sales calls as a operator gave me every single piece of information that I needed to know about this offer. What are the objections? What are the pains? What are the problems? Why are they even on the call? And that gives you all the information that you really need. And then you want to kind of gather old webinar designs. I get my clients to like record me a 10-minute voice memo walking me through their offer. Then we have the actual strategy call, then a VSL transcript. All of these you can plug into AI to get a nice little summary as well as the results of the client in the past. And this allowed us to build what we call our market deep dive sheet. And we built this with every single client that we work with. And the first part is information about the offer. You want to get down the origin story, right? The client's origin story can be really important for the webinar. We got down the pain points, scenarios, situation, failed attempts, faulty beliefs and why they're wrong. Really important for a webinar to understand. Have like kind of like a table of like what is the faulty belief, kind of why it's wrong and how you can prove it's wrong, and like is it like even like a case study you can give to prove it's wrong. Then a summary of the ICP based on the sales recordings. Then 2 things that you probably don't see as often in these kind of market research sections of videos: the opportunity cost of inaction. So what happens if they don't buy today? What will their life look like for the next 3 months? Because you can use that at the end of the webinar to say, if you don't go ahead and apply now, here is what your life will look like for the next 3 months. Here's what you'll miss out on. For us, it was missing out on Q4, which is like Black Friday and Christmas, a huge opportunity in the TikTok shop space. And then the liking relatability tendency. Now, I got this from a copywriter guru that I watch a lot of. But basically, it's using different words, mechanisms, speeches, like ideas inside the actual webinar, or even the call funnel if you're running a call funnel or the launch, that kind of make you relatable and likable to the audience. And so in our client's case, I use their slang and things like that to try and relate to the viewer on a deeper level and make it feel like a friend rather than you're being pitched to. Then psychological assets for the webinar and WhatsApp research. But that was pretty much everything we did for market research. And once you've got this deep dive sheet, you can go ahead and use it in a Claude or ChatGPT project or Poppy AI project, all of which really helped me throughout this whole process. And then step 2 is crafting the marketing angles. So I like to start with 3 things: an overview, what are the sales assets / angles that we can use, and then deciding what are like the 3 phases or the 5 phases that we can use inside the webinar to actually teach them to get the result that we're promising them. And so with the overview, what you can do is you can make the overview, you can make the angles, you can go ahead and craft the landing page. You don't even have to write the webinar yet if you've got the idea of the video down, or the idea of the webinar, should I say, down. So we went with the idea of 5 to 15k months because everybody's seen 10k months. So I wanted to kind of come at it from a different place, which you can do a lot of inside of your call funnel, your launch, your webinar, whatever that is. Kind of come at it from a different angle to the rest of the market, which almost inadvertently throws rocks at enemies. And then we also gave it a fancy name, a unique mechanism. We called it the scaling framework. And then in terms of sales angles, I wanted to have 3 or 4 things that I could leverage throughout the process. So we had the price was increasing of the webinar. Q4 is on its way, so you could miss out on Q4, which is like this big event in TikTok shop space. Faceless content is dead, so throwing rocks at enemies. Then a really big pain point that this viewer would have, which was stressing over 200 views and not having consistent income and freedom. And that allowed me to go ahead and craft the landing page and the confirmation page, both of which were really, really simple. I wanted to hone the idea in that this was a free webinar, free masterclass. Anyone can join and will give you the roadmap that you need to hit 5 to 15k months. And we built a little 4-minute VSL to go with this. Really short, really simple. It wasn't like crazily edited. It had everything it needed just to be like kind of push the viewer towards registering, saying, here's the key benefits, here's what you'll get, here's why you should join. And we even told them around 3 minutes in that we were going to be selling them something at the end. And that worked massively. We had a your host section that builds the proof that you need. And then we had a what you'll learn, which builds the hype. And then we had case studies again, building the proof, community wins, building the proof, and then another link to secure your ticket. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated, simple, clean. It's clear where they have to go. It's clear why they should sign up. And then we had the confirmation page to make sure that they actually show up. This plays a huge role in getting the people that register to show up. You want them to instantly do a few things. One of them is joining the WhatsApp group, which in the actual video here, which was only 1 minute long, we told them to do. We said, you have to do this to secure your place in the webinar. You have to do this. You have to find the confirmation email, make sure that you've put it in your calendar and that kind of thing. Now, going forward, what I will be doing is adding a link, a direct link to put it in the calendar so that they get reminders directly from Google, which would have obviously increased shown rate even more. And then I just inverted the case studies here to black to make it look different. And then we have the frequently asked questions. Nothing crazy, but these are really important because you need to handle the objections anyone might have around the webinar, because you still have to convince people to take like 90-ish minutes. I think our webinar was like 110 minutes. You need to convince people to take that much time out of the day. So I made sure to hit all the angles according to frequently asked questions. And then step 3 is generating signups. Now, we only had 17,000 followers on TikTok with around like 2-ish thousand views a video, and we only had 300 subscribers on YouTube, so I had to be insanely smart with the sign up system. So what we did, and I'm not going to take most of the credit for this because a lot of this was my client's doing. He's very good at content, he knows what he's doing, he ideated a lot of this, I just gave him a little bit of support here and there. We focused on, or should I say he focused on, short form value based content in every single video. Even though not every single video is going viral like this, right, he's still giving away value at every single point. The triple hook method, method, the create and solve hook, how TikTok shop moms can dominate Q4. He just came at it with different angles, with simple text hooks, giving away raw value based on his experience. Now, to do this, you need experience. You do need to follow him, or should I say, you do need like experience, case studies, that kind of thing. If you don't have a reason for people to listen, they're not going to listen to this kind of style of content. But it works so well for us, and we solve specific problems throughout, giving them free things like free hooks and using ManyChat to do this. And then our client would go in and DM every single one and just like basically say, right, you've got the ManyChat free thing. Would you like to sign up for the actual webinar? You'll get even more value, and we'll even give you some of the stuff that we promised from this video here, and we'll give it inside of the webinar. And so that really helped to get sign-ups and show-ups as well. And then we also promoted to the existing email list. Now, this wasn't as fruitful as I would have liked. It was a very dormant list. It was also a list that had thousands of people from different areas, so it wasn't very usable almost. We did a simple process for this. Warm-up email, announcement email, and then 7 days every single day until the webinar, and then about 3 hours before we sent another one. Simple emails just saying join the webinar. Basically, we didn't really go very heavy on the existing list, and we only probably got about an extra 50 to 100 sign-ups from this list because, like I say, it was coming from everywhere. It was a bit unused, untapped, wasn't very warm. That's why I included the warm-up email to try and give them some value before I then promoted to them. But yeah, it wasn't like anything crazy. And then step 4 is actually getting people to show up. So we've already got everyone to sign up. Now we need to use the systems to make sure they come to the webinar because, you know, we want to get as many people there. And on average, like, you'll lose around 40 to 60% of people if you don't do the right things. So the first thing that we used was a private WhatsApp community, and it got to at its peak around 370 members. Obviously, it's dropped off since the back of it. And inside of this actual group, all we did was hype people up. We showed case studies, right? We did polls. We had the actual client go in and make videos just saying, hey guys, how's everyone doing? I'm so excited for the masterclass, etc. But just hyping everyone up, showing case studies, showing proof, reminding everyone of the webinar. That's all you need to do inside of the WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook, whatever community you want to put it inside of. And then we use simple SMS and email nurturing sequences to get people to show up. Nothing groundbreaking again, but what we did is we had a confirmation email, confirmation SMS, instantly send them another email because I really wanted to give them value throughout. And then every single day leading up to about day 3, we sent them a daily email at 6 p.m. the same time. Each email had like a PS at the end telling them what value they'd get in the next email. And I noticed that really helped from when I actually implemented it in day 7 to day 4. The open rates on day 5, day 4, day 6, should I say as well, day 3, they all skyrocketed because I implemented this PS system of like, if you open the next one, you'll get this result, you'll get this benefit, right? And that really helped to get people to open the next email. And then in each email, I promoted the WhatsApp, and I also towards the end promoted the actual link to join the webinar when the time came. And then around day 2, we went to multiple day emails. So email A, email B, both on day 2 or 2 days before the webinar, should I say. And we did the same on day 1, even testing multiple subject lines for the same email. So if they didn't open it in a few hours time, they'd get another email. That automation is obviously gone because I had to delete it towards the end. And then we had SMS 1-day reminders, SMS 1 hour before, 10 minutes before, alongside the WhatsApp community. Works really, really well. And then emails that we had one 10 hours before. Obviously, I've cut it off in the picture here. And we had 6 hours before, we had 3 hours before, and the 3 hours before did really, really well. In the 3 hours before, I basically said, like, I almost thought about cancelling the webinar. And that angle of saying, like, guys, I might cancel it, that got so many opens. I think it got like a 70%-ish open rate, which was really good to see. And that got everyone hyped up before because I was like, I almost cancelled it, but I've spent some more money getting some more advice, and I've done this thing and this thing and this thing to try and make sure that I still make the best webinar for you guys, even though I'm not feeling like it. That built up a lot of trust before the actual webinar, and then we did an email when it went live. Alongside this, we obviously had Webinar Jam sending out emails itself, confirmation 12 hours before, 15 minutes before. As you can see, the drop off there was massive, but we had everything we really needed inside of the WhatsApp group. And because each email, even each SMS pushed the WhatsApp group, again, we had a lot of show ups there. In fact, around 500 people signed up, and we had nearly 400 people in the WhatsApp group, which shows the WhatsApp group method was doing well, which is a really good rate. And then something which I have never really seen done, but I wouldn't usually do this, but I went in myself and I messaged around 40 people and rang around 5 people and just asked them some questions, right? What do you want to see on the webinar? And that gave me instant market research feedback, which I could then obviously implement back into the market deep dive doc that helped me write the actual webinar because I got direct live feedback from people that were attending the webinar. I proposed as somebody from his team, and I literally just asked them questions and if there's anything they specifically like to see on the webinar. Now that was great because we actually got a few people that I did this with to buy, because obviously they felt like they've had real-time feedback. And so I honestly, next time, my next webinar with this client, I might get a setter to go in and do this for every single lead, every one of the 500 leads, ask them what they want to see. Because imagine if you tell them, right, I'm going to give you this thing, or I'm going to put this thing on the webinar for you, they're going to show up, right? That's going to massively increase show up rates. And so I'm going to test that out on the next webinar. And obviously I'll make a video on that one. And then obviously step 5, the webinar itself, one of the most important parts. Now I used an adaptation of Jason Fladlyan's $250 million webinar framework. If you don't know who he is the GOAT of webinars. You can read his book One to Many. It is the founding godfather of them. And I use like a new version of this. Obviously I can't share that, it's from a friend, but I can give you the base idea, and that's go and find Fladlyan's framework because it just works. And then what I did was create a scripting plan. So instead of going straight into it, I took the kind of overview and angles and frameworks I created here and everything I wrote inside the actual sales page, and I built the scripting plan for each section of the Fladlyan framework. And then you can see, for example, let's do a true or false quiz with limiting beliefs. And then here's the actual script. Obviously it ended up being 30 pages long with a true or false quiz. And so that basically allows us to come in instantly and script out this really, really effortlessly. I didn't use AI for this. I did this myself with the help of the other person working in my team on this offer. And then I'm not really going to show you every single part of this webinar because we can't really show every single part. It just takes too long. But in terms of the actual pitch, what I think worked really, really well was teasing them at the beginning by going like, okay, so I think I've got something for you here. It's my pleasure to introduce you to the name of the program. But it spent like a full page saying, it's not this, it's not that. And it also helped person get this result. And it's not this thing. And it is this thing. And that allowed us to just build a lot of hype up before the pitch. And then we even gave the guarantee away, what the actual offer is. And the bonuses were so important, right? Who wants to get these exclusive live bonuses? We positioned these bonuses as instant ROI, which worked so well. And then what I wanted to show you actually is and if I stop the presentation, is the actual slide decks. So you can see these are really, really simple, nothing complicated at all about these, like just literal simple pictures, allowing the client to kind of go through it fast and just click to side, click to side, click to side. Nothing majorly design heavy, really simple because of the audience that we were targeting. And you can see it was 497 slides, and we had a second page here. This is when we were pitching. You can see that here. Again, we're pitching even harder here. We're showing the worst case scenarios. We're showing like the disadvantages of not taking action now before Q4. People will get left behind, that kind of thing. And that was 124 pages. So overall, an insane amount of pages. I think over 600 slides. And then I also wanted to show you inside the webinar jam. If I just refresh this live to show you even more proof this webinar was successful. We had less than that, around 800 registrants, and around 500 people initially show up. With in the beginning around 370 people stay around the beginning section. Then we had the content section, and then we had the pitch around, I'd say 50 minutes in, we started pitching. That's when we obviously started losing a lot of people. Then the Q&A towards the end. But the average time on the webinar room was 1 hour, which is insane. Where else can you command that amount of attention? The average person out of 500 attendees watch the webinar for an hour. And we also had 213 people actually go on the replay, right? So that's really, really good, with 37% of people watching the full webinar, which is crazy to see. Crazy stats. I just want to show you a bit more proof behind that. And then step 6, the follow-up. Probably the most underrated part of the whole webinar process. The follow-up was very, 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 very important for us, especially for this one. The reason being, we had so many Typeform applications, but only 35 financially qualified people. We made a little bit of a mistake on the routing, and we should have routed more people towards a call. But we basically wanted to ensure that the first people that got on the call were only people that were super qualified, so that our closer could basically cash collect instantly up front and reinvest rapidly. And so we had one closer, which was the founder himself, because we wanted to use founder-led sales in this first webinar, and then the setter. Right? Going forward, we'll probably introduce 2 closers and 2 setters. And in fact, this is how dedicated I was to making this work. I worked as a second setter. So I worked alongside my setter. I dialed around 50 leads and I messaged myself around 200-ish people to try and get them to apply. And that generated an extra around, like, let's say 5 to 10K. So it's really important to do those additional reps, additional bits of work. If you're an operator, you know, get into it so you can understand the process, you can understand what makes people buy. Because me doing this process now allows me to actually go ahead and create an even better webinar next time. And so what we did was split up the audience into 3 different sections that we targeted. Didn't attend the webinar, attended but didn't apply, and then applied for the offer. And then obviously we also had people that booked a call, and the setter would go in and confirm that they were going to show up and then move them about. Okay, did they no show? Did they reschedule? And that kind of thing. So we had the setter do all of that inside of the Go High Level pipeline. Now, originally we did everything inside of WhatsApp. So we had our setter use their own WhatsApp account, which was a mistake. It wasn't working at first for our client's WhatsApp business account. So we had to do this. But going forward, every single person we reached out to from the client's WhatsApp business account, because it positions you as that person. They think, oh my God, the person I've just been on a webinar with or masterclass with is reaching out to me personally. That makes them feel more special. Here are a few examples of the actual messages that we used. First was for people that said they had less than £500 to invest. So really simple. We're just reviewing the applications from Sunday evening, and as you can imagine, it's taken us a while to get back to everyone, but based on your application, I'm sure there's something we could put together to help you out. But just to confirm, you said you have less than 500 to invest. Is that correct? Or do you maybe have more? And this found us around 5-ish, I'd say maybe even upwards of 15 people that said they had less than 500 but had more. In fact, we had like 5 people that said they had less than 500, ended up doing the full 2K paid in full, which is crazy to think about, because it shows you how much people actually lie on these applications. And so the setting process here was so important. And then I've blurred out his face because it's kind of a mugshot. I don't want to do him dirty, basically. But again, the setter reached out. The client asked me to send you this video. His WhatsApp business account isn't working, and so he sent the video posing as though our client is sending this video over. And it was just a quick video saying like, I saw that you like didn't show up. What's going on? Do you want the replay? That kind of thing. And then we also had one for like if they actually didn't show up. So this is for people that applied, sorry. And this is for people that didn't show up at all. And finally, the email sequences. Again, we didn't go too crazy on this. None of the sequences were that content heavy. It was more focused on being streamlined, simple for the client's first webinar with us before we can then scale what works, what didn't work in the next webinar. But we had one for attended, right? Wait 2 hours after the webinar, post-webinar email, offering the replay. I don't know why I had that there, but wait 24 hours, 1 day later, 2 days later, and that continued for 5 days, continuously honing in the idea of the offer, the urgency, the scarcity, the exclusive bonuses are going soon. And in fact, I'd say out of these applications here for the type form, around 40 of them came from this attended workflow alone. And then we had a didn't attend workflow as well. Again, waiting a few hours after the webinar, replay, right? If you missed it, you can get the replay. Then this was the following morning, you can get the replay again. This was the following night, and we did this again for about 3 to 4 days, offering them everything, showing them what's actually possible afterwards. And then a final kind of weird one that I just tested out. So this one was for all the people that said they had less than £500. I wanted to go in and make sure that was actually true. So I sent them a really quick email just being like, hey, I'm going to be honest, we've only got a few spots left. We've taken on so many people already, but the offers like requires over £1,000 investment. You can split it up, but if you put £500 on your actual application, please do, like, if you have a little bit more, fill it out again, put £1,000 and get you on a call. There's always options to chunk it up, and that did get us, I think, around another two piffs, which is really important. But just in the end, just saying like, hey guys, I just want to help you out here, right? You have this great opportunity, I want to give it to you. It comes across as good, almost, even though it's like a last minute sale to get some more piffs before we end the process. It comes across as non-salesy almost, because you're saying like, I just want you to help you guys out as much as possible. But yeah, so this is pretty much every single thing that we did to get this client from around 5-ish, sometimes 10K on a good month, every single month with his TikTok shop offer. There was only around $2.7K, and get him all the way up to 32,000 cash collected in less than 72 hours with his first webinar. Obviously, there's a lot of systems that we can now implement to make the next webinar even better. And if you are a coach or an operator and you'd like to have a chat about either having me consult on your next webinar or having me actually go in and build the webinar for you, like I did here, A to Z, so all you have to do is show up to the webinar and that is it. Present it, and you'll book hundreds of calls. We'll help with the closing, the setting, get everything sorted so that you can book all these calls. Like we said, 57 with just 17,000. Let me scroll down. With just 17,000 followers. Imagine what we can do with your audience. But that's pretty much everything. And if you would like to kind of learn a little bit more about how challenge funnels work, webinar funnels, one-to-many sales systems, there'll be a video in the top right corner here that you can click on now. Go and watch that. But if not, like I say, book a call with me. We'll have a quick chat and see how we can help you with webinars.